coffee. Good morning. We have so much to talk about. All right, how was everybody this morning? Yeah, you can watch me later. Morning, Washington State. What do I think of the Bannon issue? I'll tell you as soon as my coffee's ready. Any minute now. So Steve Bannon's in the crosshairs today. We'll talk about him a little bit. So, no speaking engagements yet. And, all right, let's talk. So, Reince Priebus got picked as chief of staff. I got to think that's about one of the best things he could have done, because there's somebody who can work with both sides, and I thought Reince did a great job of balancing the Trumpers and the anti-Trumpers. He seems like a inspired choice to me. Seems kind of perfect. Bannon is a more interesting choice, because apparently Bannon was very important to Trump's victory. And so you have to say Bannon is really capable and very talented. So it would be crazy for Trump to lose him, except that the press would like that to happen, because they've painted Bannon with some bad stains. So, to my understanding, everything that's been said about Bannon is just confirmation bias, right? As far as we know, other than being provocative, he doesn't actually hold any views that are being assigned to him, as far as I know. Yeah, as far as I know, there's just a lot of complaints about him. So under those conditions, since the complaints about Bannon are rumor, confirmation bias, stuff taken out of context, that sort of thing, and the fact that he did a great job for him, apparently, I would say he's got to keep him for now, because he's probably an asset. Yeah, I wouldn't believe the ex-wife under any situation. Same with ex-husband, same problem. His ex-wife says he hates Jews. That's it. That's all we have is an ex-wife saying something about her husband. Good morning. An interview with Oprah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, the other thing you have going for you is that, the whole anti-Jew thing is, I think, as far as I can tell, completely made up. Because when you drill down, even this far into the rumor, and it just falls apart. Yeah, as you said. Big Jew. Yeah. I think that's a lot of nothing. I think Trump has a good argument for ignoring it for now. Yeah, did any of you see Dave Chappelle do his stand-up routine on Saturday Night Live when he came out at the end and basically he said, give Trump a chance, and we're going to ask him to give us a chance. I was thinking to myself, Chappelle would be kind of awesome in government. He comes off as really smart. That's just my view of Chappelle. When you hear him talk, he's funny because you're picking up his intelligence, I think. He's in the talented 10, whatever that is. Kellyanne or Milo for press secretary? Well, what's your take on the Jewish question? What's the question? You met him in a bar once? Or someone claiming to be him? Another transition rumor. What are the other transition rumors? I love Milo. Milo's incredible. Did you get any of your productivity rut with my book? I missed the 60 Minutes interview, but I saw some of the outtakes. Laura Ingraham for press secretary? Probably a good choice. Is that one of the rumors? I only know her from her television appearances, but they have all been solid. You don't have a DVR? I did not see the Soros interview. I'm not buying into any of the Soros stuff, by the way. I'm not doubting that he's trying to make an impact. I just don't think he has one. So I could be talked out of that. So I would consider that a preliminary opinion, but I haven't seen any evidence that he's actually trying to. Did somebody say, would I accept a Supreme Court appointment? You know what's funny is I would be perfect for the Supreme Court. As weird as that sounds, I would actually be totally perfect. Because as I understand these things, you've got a staff of real lawyers who can tell you what the law is. So you don't have to actually be a lawyer to be on the Supreme Court. And I'm probably the most unbiased person I know, but I suppose everybody says that about themselves. I think my standard, if I were on the Supreme Court, my standard would be credibility. And by that I mean, and I've made this point before, that the biggest goal of government is not to take care of the people, not to defend the country, not to do any of those, although those things are things that the government does. So the government does many things and should do many things. But if you were trying to summarize it into one concept that would just work across all things, it would be the concept of credibility. Credibility is, sorry, I've got text coming in. Credibility is so important because, how about now? How's my audio? Can you hear me now? Better. Okay, good. Yeah, I was just saying, sorry, I got knocked off the last Periscope because I had an incoming text, and I made the mistake of touching the notification, and it knocked me out of the app. I was trying to remove the notification. All right, so here's what I was saying. I was saying that if I were appointed to the Supreme Court, the standard that I would use would be credibility, because that works in every case. And here's how I apply that. Credibility means that it doesn't mean that everybody agrees with your decision, although that would be one way to be credible. Far better is that everybody understands why you made the decision, even if they don't agree with it. And I'll give you an example. My view on abortion, for example, is that men should stay out of it, just stay out of the question, and just be supportive of whatever women as a group, looking at a majority, decide. And the reason is that the abortion question is hard enough, right? It's got every kind of emotional, intellectual, scientific complexity you could ever have in an issue. And the big problem is that you come up with a law that just isn't credible with part of the public. Now, the best way to make the abortion laws credible is just keep the men out of it and let us be supportive of whatever the women collectively come up with. Why? Because women, in general, have a greater appreciation for the topic. They have more skin in the game. And if women are okay with it, whichever way it goes, then it's more likely than that will be credible both to other women, because at least they can say, well, at least women collectively decided this, even though I don't agree with it maybe. It does sound credible because women are well informed and they have more information, I think, than men do on reproductive issues, at least involving their own bodies. So although men would not give up their right to vote, I think the world is more credible when whatever the decision is collectively is consistent with the majority of women's opinions. All right, so that's a case where credibility is more important than which way you ended up deciding. Likewise, there may be cases where the public has a majority in the wrong direction. At least that's what you think when you're Supreme Court, let's say. So this is just a thought experiment. So let's say you're on the Supreme Court and you think that the average public has it wrong and you need to fix it. I would say I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't fix a wrong unless my reasoning was so solid that even the people who disagreed with me would say, oh, I hate that, but I see where you're coming from, right? Because that's at least credible. So that's the standard I would go for. Abortion is a states' rights thing. Well, not right now, but it could be if the law changes. Now, here's another thing that I like about the potential for a Trump presidency. If you go back in time, the justification for states' rights, and if you're a historian, just correct me if I get any of this wrong, but my understanding is the reason that we have states' rights instead of just one federal government that makes all the decisions for everybody is that the states didn't want to give up their power in the beginning, and that the states are closer to the people in their state. So states may have very different cultures, and it might make sense to have different laws because what is credible in California would not be credible as a law in Kansas, say, for example. So it made perfect sense that you had states' rights because they were closer to the people and they could have, microclimates, if you will, where their laws were credible for their population and everybody be happy because they got their own laws. All right. But fast forward to the future, and here's what's different, what has changed and what is cool. Now we can do rapid A/B testing, meaning you can test plan A, and very quickly, because of the internet primarily, we can find out if it works. So in our current environment, the idea of states' rights can be extended to states as laboratories. Now, I'm not the first person to say this, but today we can say, all right, federal government's job is to look at the states, find out which of the laboratory experiments is working well, and promote it to the other states. So instead of being the big boss and saying, hey, states, do it my way, the federal government could say, look, recreational marijuana worked really well in Colorado, if it did, and just tell everybody, hey, it worked really well in Colorado. What you do in your state is still up to you, but we're just telling you. Objectively speaking, we looked at it, we're the federal government, we don't have a dog in this race, we're just evaluating the data. And in this state, this set of laws worked. So the rest of you might want to think about this, right? That would be a good role for government as an information purveyor, as an auditor of what has worked and what hasn't. So you can imagine a situation where states have to compete. They have to compete for employees. Remember, in the old days, people didn't move for the most part. You could do whatever you wanted in your state, and people just had to live with it because they weren't going anywhere. But now people are really mobile, and they have good communications. So if you're in, I'm just going to pick a state. So if you're in Kansas, and abortion is not legal, and some other recreational marijuana is not legal, let's say, someday in the future, you got to ask yourself if you want to stay in Kansas, because you go on the internet and there's somebody offering you a programmer job in another state. And you say, why do I want to be in a state that's no good for me? So you leave. So you would create a situation that didn't exist before because you didn't have the internet and you didn't have the mobility that we have now. So today, if a high-tech worker, and poor people still can't move, but people with good jobs, and they're the ones that are going to matter most to the economy of the state, the people with good jobs are mobile. So if you say to yourself, hey, I'm Texas, and I want Austin to be a tech center, and I want to attract the right technology for my oil industry and everything else, can I still have it illegal to have abortions in my state? Because if I do that, tech workers are more liberal than otherwise, right? Don't you screw your state if you don't compete with your neighboring state? Because if the state right next to you has a lot going on for it, plus better laws, you're going to lose your people. The tech workers move. Now, none of this happens quickly, but I think the likely outcome of overcoming Roe versus Wade is that you would see states, some of them would ban abortion, some would allow it, but over time, I think you'd see almost all of them allow it, and they would have to do that for economic reasons, because they wouldn't be able to attract companies and they wouldn't be able to attract workers. I would think that a lot of companies, let's just take Apple as an example, if they had a choice of building a new entity, a factory, let's say, and they could do it where there was abortion rights versus where there weren't, it's an easy choice. They're going to go where their workers have the things that the workers want, and the workers want that right. They don't have to use it. They just want the option. Science shows the humanity of the preborn. If you're talking about whether a fetus is a life or not a life, whether it's human or just a pre-human, you're doing what I call word thinking, meaning that you've left the arena of reason and logic, and you're just talking about, hey, I want my word to mean this. Let's make my word act like it means something. It's life. Let's call it life. I've won the argument. Hey, I defined a word. I've won the argument. No, you didn't win anything because you didn't use any reason. All you did is force things into a definition. So if you're asking yourself, is the fetus alive or not alive? Is it living or not living? Does it have a soul or not a soul? At a certain age, you were engaged in what I call word thinking. You're not part of reason. You're not part of facts. The facts are involved, but you're not using them in any sensible way. You're not putting them in any kind of a logical structure. All you're doing is saying, I found a word, and I'm going to put things into my word and call it a definition, and therefore I declare myself right because I used a word. So my point is this. If you can't say that, a 4-week-old fetus is a living human and still abort it, you're not dealing with reason. You're just dealing with wishful thinking and illusion and everything. So I think you've got to say it is what it is. A fetus just is what it is. It doesn't matter what you call it. It doesn't matter if you call it alive or not alive. The question is, if you have a certain set of laws, what's that do to people? What's it do to society? Is it credible? Those are the things that matter. It doesn't matter what word you put on it. I think science will move the marker of what we consider life. Kill at 8 months. Well, the reason you wouldn't kill at 8 months is because the public, by and large, doesn't want that. So it's not really a risk. So you can forget about what is or isn't a life. Just the public doesn't want it, so it's not going to happen. Brain activity is life. That's word thinking. Infanticide, that's word thinking. See, none of this is reason. Now, the woman should decide is more like reason, because it gets closer to the notion of credibility, right? If all abortions were decided only by the man who got the woman pregnant, there's no amount of logic you could put around that would make that a credible law, because the public wouldn't accept it. So the marker is clear if it lives without intervention. No, the marker is ridiculously unclear. The marker will move forever as science improves, and it means nothing. It was just this random point in time that the judges decided was the time when it was okay. All of this is completely random. There's no thinking involved when it comes to the abortion question. All there is what you can live with. That's all there is. There's no logic. There's no it's alive. That's just word thinking. Credibility isn't word thinking, because credibility has meaning beyond the word that everybody agrees with. So as long as everybody agrees with the word, you're not engaged in word thinking, because I'm not using it to convince you of something. It's just a word as part of a description. If you're trying to argue by defining something, then you're not part of reason. But it's still important to define things. You just can't win your argument by defining it. Defining it isn't winning. Defining is part of describing. So it's good to define things if you want to convey some information to somebody. That's really good. But if you're trying to win an argument by just making the definition fit your argument, that's nothing. That's nothing. You have not engaged in any kind of reasonable debate. You've likely done worse. So I've also argued, does this, it changes back to the other look. I've argued that the president is the one job where, no matter what you think about capital punishment or abortion rights or doctor-assisted dying, it's the one position, President of the United States, where you'd want your president to be pro-life in every sense, as long as they don't have to make the decision, right? So the best possible situation is that your president just says, whoa, as president of the United States, I'm president of everybody who's a citizen anyway. And I'm not going to choose gray areas and say, oh, this gray area, you're not really alive, so we'll kill you, or this gray area, you committed a crime so bad that we're going to kill you. I think the best position is for a president to say, under no situation will I, as president, support the killing of a citizen. Doesn't matter what they did, even if they murdered somebody. I won't be in favor of it, because as president, I'm not in favor of killing any citizens of the United States. But if the states want to kill somebody, either because that's what you define abortion as, or because you have a capital punishment, then the president can say, look, I'm not for that, but I am for the states deciding. And the states can be more credible if they do their own deciding on this. So you have this weird situation where the best case scenario might be the president disagrees with you, because you might want abortion to be legal, but do you want your president to, in any situation, to say, hey, I think I'll decide that some Americans can get killed because I'll just define them as not alive, or I'll define them as less important, or I'll define them as people not worthy of life because they committed a crime, let's say, or they're at the end of life, so we should just let the doctors kill them because it's cheaper. You might agree with every one of those policies. You might agree with capital punishment. You might like abortion. You might like, as I do, the right of a terminally ill person to work with their doctor to end their life sooner. You as individuals might like that, and your state might like that too. So you might be lucky you're living in a state where they agree with you. But what about your president? Do you ever want a situation where your president thinks it's okay to choose winners and losers in life among Americans. We expect them to choose American lives over foreign lives whenever that's a reasonable thing to do. But we don't expect our president to say, hey, this group of Americans, I think it's okay to kill them. I got good reasons, so it's okay to kill them. I don't think you ever want that. Cernovich is making a persuasion play? In what way? You're smart, but you've suppressed your soul. Oh, I don't believe in souls. I believe in trying to be better people. As far as Cernovich claimed he saw the 33,000 emails. He might have. Would you work for Trump if asked? Oh, it would depend. Depend if I thought I could make a difference, and it depends if the pay was good, that sort of thing. Law of thermodynamics, your energy goes somewhere. Well, I'll buy that. Cernovich is acting a bully? Is he doing something new that I don't know about? I don't say people are good. I say that the goal of life is to improve from wherever you are. ADA, the Clinton AI. Yeah, so you saw the story about something called ADA. That was a software program that was helping Clinton's team decide where to put their money and how to advertise and stuff. Apparently, it didn't work well enough. So I haven't heard anybody come back to me and say, hey, you said that this election would be rigged because it has all the qualities that you look for something to be rigged. And the qualities are that there's a big upside gain, and that it's possible. There's motive, and there's opportunity, and there's high upside potential. In this case, the election was a super high upside potential, and the downside potential is non-existent or low. And that was the case here, because there were lots of people who had at least the ability to rig the election one way or the other. Now, when I'm talking about rigging, I'll include voter suppression, so that we're talking about both Republicans and Democrats. Anybody who has an opportunity could be expected to try to rig the election. And then further, I said that unlike other years, Democrats would have a super big incentive to rig the election because they believe, incorrectly, but they believe it, that they're stopping the next Hitler. So if you're stopping the next Hitler, you're going to cheat even if you're an honest person, because, Hitler, right? Got to stop Hitler. So then Trump went and he won. So does that mean that the election was not rigged? Probably not. It probably means it was rigged both ways. It probably means there was voter suppression on the Republican side. It probably means there was massive rigging on the Clinton side. It just wasn't big enough. All right, that's the problem with it. I saw a headline today, and I'm not going to claim this is true. It's just the headline I saw, that as many as 3 million illegals, undocumented immigrants, voted in California, which would be enough to change the popular vote, win. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I can tell you that whether it was that or something else, there was a lot of cheating, because there could be, and there was a huge incentive, and so it happened. It just wasn't big enough. And when they show the abnormalities, do the abnormalities go in the right direction? In other words, do they all head in the same direction or not? And by the way, there's always going to be abnormalities in any given districts just by chance. I mean, it's going to look like an abnormality because chance is something that happens. Why do people think Trump is racist? It's confirmation bias. Pascal's wager, I am. But what's the context here? My stance on voter IDs? I'd have to know more about that. I'm not sure. I feel like I know what the general concept is there, but I feel like there are people who know more about that than I do, and they probably have stronger opinions that make more sense. Moderate drinkers reduce stroke risk. Probably not. What's next for Scott Adams? To be determined. I'm still having fun writing about the transition, so I'll probably do that for a while. The biggest thing going on in my life is my startup, Whenhub. If you don't have the app yet, you are so missing out. It's free. It's called Whenhub, Whenhub, and you can find it on the Apple Store and the Android Store. It works across platforms, so if you have one type, you can use it with the other type. And what it does is let people find each other when they're on the way to a meeting. So you can send in a text to your several people approaching, and they all see each other. Their little picture appears on a map, and you can see them converging toward the meeting place. So you don't have to call up and say, hey, are you almost here? Did you forget where we are? We're in the restaurant. We've already parked. All those texts that you always do in the last few minutes. Good. Some of you have already tried the app and already love it. I use it several times a day, and already it's a little bit hard to feel. How can you live without it? Yeah, if you have kids and you just want them to be tracked all the time, then you could just use that with your iOS. Your iOS has a way to track people all the time. And there are other apps that could track people all the time. What the Whenhub app does that's a little bit unique is that for privacy reasons, it times out. And there's no way to turn that off. So when you're doing an approach to a meeting, you're only geo-streaming your location for the time that you chose to geo-stream it, and then it just stops. I've seen people who are still tracking people on their iPhone, and the person doesn't know they're being tracked. I've seen that several times. It's because they allowed themselves to geo-stream once, and they forgot to turn it off on their phone. What am I doing for Christ? Or what am I doing for Christmas? The app doesn't need to be open all the time. Well, it doesn't need to be the app that's on the screen, but it needs to be awake and running in the background. Yes, but once you initiate it, you can let it run in the background, and then you could use your map navigation apps. You could use your other apps at the same time. How did you fund the startup? I funded it up to this point with my own money and with sweat equity from our Australian partners who did the first round of tech. What about the protesters? Will they quit? They always do, eventually. Yeah, I might turn it into a book, or I might put it into my Whenhub Studio app, which you haven't seen yet. That'll be the cloud-based part of Whenhub. And I might make it available that way, because that would be more fun for you. That doesn't make sense to you yet, but when I explain the startup soon, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'll talk about the bigger picture for Whenhub when I want to send you over to the site, because right now we got a couple of bugs we're beating down, and I want to get those solved before you see it. Why not develop in the U.S.? It was developed in the U.S. after the first version. So yeah, we're a U.S. development company right now. All right, going out for more funding? Yes, as soon as a couple of bugs are stomped out, I'll start pitching it for funds. Yeah, Bannon's appointment is, so I blogged today about the concept of unhypnotizing the protesters. And what you need to do is you need to break their frame. You need to violate it. And what I mean is they have this frame that says Trump's a monster, he's a racist, sexist, homophobic monster. He's not any of those things, but they believe it. And so that's the frame that they have. So what he needs to do is do more things that are outside that frame and fewer things that are inside the frame. Since Bannon got branded by the opposition as being a bad guy, having him on the team in any capacity is more confirmation bias for the people who want to believe Trump's a monster. So to that degree, it doesn't work. Persuasion-wise, it's a bad deal. One assumes that he would only do that kind of thing. Trump would only put Bannon on the team, both originally on the campaign, but also he would only put him on the team if he got so much value from him, the strategic value, that it was worth the risk. So you have to assume that Bannon is a superstar, or Trump wouldn't take the risk with him. We've seen Trump fire enough people that we know he doesn't hesitate if he has to. So it has to be intentional. Well, it's intentional in the fact that Trump knows there's a trade-off, that Bannon's a little provocative. That's the trade-off for the fact that he must be really good at what he does. You need a real teacher to learn hypnosis. You need to practice it in class. It's tough to read about it. Yes, Bay just arrived. She just went by. So I'm going to sign off in a minute. Oh, I'll be on CNN again today at 11:50 my time. So add 3 hours for the East Coast. So if you're in California at 11:50, I'll be on CNN again. Talking about Trump on CNN, yeah. All right. So I talked to Jake on Friday, and I'll be talking to Brooke today on CNN. I haven't seen a tape for the BBC interview, but that's not the one you want to see. Trust me. I did an interview for RT, for reparations. All right, so I'm gonna go get some work done before I go to CNN. All right, see you guys later.